The security index has been very interesting this time around in that 72% of people said that they were very concerned about losing their identity. Why would that be? Well, part of it, of course, is that criminals are affected by recessions as much as ordinary law-abiding citizens, and therefore they will look for easy ways of finding money. One of them is online transactions, and unfortunately, quite a lot of people are very careless about the way that they use their identity. Subsequently, and actually it's very interesting on the index to see how many young people were relatively concerned. Actually, the demographics show that older people were more concerned, but quite a number of young people are now becoming very aware that they have given away an awful lot of their identity in social networking sites such as Facebook, MySpace, and that sort of thing. There is a perception that cost-cutting will affect security, and I think that has to be taken very seriously. The security budget is often seen as a cost centre, doesn't do anything for profit, and therefore it's the first one that can go, and a lot of security companies have a sort of guns, gates and guards mentality, and therefore the man guards, the people looking after the firewalls, they will all be the people who get cut first. So the public has a rightful concern that cost-cutting could affect their security, and if it's online, it's particularly dangerous because you don't see it at all. You're not aware that security is being reduced. You just trust that the company you're dealing with online has actually taken the right precautions. Some of the biggest problems that businesses face in securing information such as my information, our information, are to do with compliance and cost. Okay? Compliance, because there's now an awful lot more legislation they have to be in line with, otherwise they will go to prison or be fined very heavily. For instance, the Information Commissioner now can actually enter your site, your premises, and do an investigation if he feels there's been a breach of information security. Cost is the other one, obviously. Businesses have to build up cash, all right? There is no credit. The best way of doing that is, the easiest way of doing it is to get rid of people, unfortunately. And they're now looking at different ways that they can do that in a safe way which keeps them compliant. So a CEO might ask himself, why have I got a corporate information security officer and a corporate security officer? Why aren't we combining the two roles? So integration of those functions are now becoming evident to us, and a much more top-down way of looking at the way they run their security. So a far more greater holistic approach to what they're doing. And in doing so, it's a big integration piece for them. And you'll see now that a lot of IT companies, and Unisys is one of them, is looking at how you converge physical security, as people would call it, with the logical security of information. So some of the things that businesses will do to address the issues they're confronted with now are strategic and technical. Strategically, they need to look harder at the responsibilities and authority of their non-executive directors, right? So audit committees, that sort of thing. People who should be making sure that that company is compliant. That's not been done enough in the past, and you'll see, certainly in UK, there's a move from government into private sector for the non-executive directors to actually exercise far more power and responsibility. The other side of that is that they shouldn't take their eye off the ball. They need to continue monitoring their networks. They don't get rid of the people who are doing that. If it's an online transaction type business, then you're only as strong as the weakest link who's actually doing the firewall or the bits and bytes at the front end. I think you have to also be more prepared for a crime, an event, and the subsequent investigation of that. So digital investigation and preparing for digital investigation is now something which should be on the radar of all CXOs. And that means such that if there is an event, you can either investigate yourself or bring the police in a way that even if your computers are taken away because they're evidence, you can continue as a business. Now, that's always been in the back of people's minds for business continuity and disaster recovery. These days, where as the sort of tide of business has really gone right down, you're exposing now a lot more fraud, a lot more criminal events that have been going on in all sorts of different companies. On the technology front, businesses should be looking at taking this opportunity to improve and invest in automating more their businesses. They just haven't had the time. In the pace and tempo of the last 15 years where we've been chasing new business, there just hasn't been the time to sort of stop, integrate everything, start again. But now's the time to do that, to digitize their functions, to bring in a sort of people-centric approach. Now, that means that the technology that they will bring in has to be able to identify in an assured way the people who are running those processes or who you are transacting with. And the way to do that is now through biometrics. And we are seeing through the index a greater acceptance in UK, a dramatic improvement on the acceptance of biometrics. And it may not be finger, face and iris, it may be things as new and different as hand vascular pattern recognition, which we've used in Canada, and simple and convenient, and we come back to convenience, but secure, as iris biometrics on the move, such as iris. We're now able to, and we're perhaps the only system integrator who is able to integrate a iris biometric, which for you means that you don't have to stop. You just keep walking towards whatever door and it will recognize you and it will open. Simple as that. So that sort of convenience. Now's the time to start rationalizing all those sort of processes and digitizing them. What will improvements in a people-centric marketplace, society, mean to me? Right? That's quite a difficult question to answer because we've never been there before. Okay? But we are moving that way faster and faster as all these processes are trying to identify you as an individual, not you as a sort of part of a socio-economic group. So, and some of the work we've done with people like the Identity and Passport Service here in the UK have been looking at possible services that could happen. They've got to be secure, of course, but the private sector, which is being encouraged to use the UK National Identity Credential, are looking at how they can do that. Now, they do some already, so loyalty cards in supermarkets, executive club cards for air travellers and that sort of thing. But how can you enhance that and enrich it by using a national identity credential? And it will be a linkage. So there's a lot of things that will come out of that, which will be very interesting indeed. One will be, for example, if you can link that assured identity, it is me really, with the convenience of shopping, say as online with sort of one-click shopping, but do that physically in the real world as you go around a supermarket, for example, you don't need a credit card. You can have a permission profile which says this is my credit card number, as you do online. And I just want to click here and take this can of beans and this box of beer and that's it. Don't even have to check out, right? Because it's all tagged as you put it into your electronic basket. And so the convenience for you is just magnified considerably. But where will it all go? Difficult to say until we start using it. And that won't happen until we have, in this country at least, an assured identity credential. So the national identity credential will be that thing. But it promises to transform commerce and the way we shop and just interact and get out. The whole paradigm, if I can use that word, is about to change.